We're getting ready for week 14. Things are crazier than ever in fantasy football. That's why you go over all the matchups with us and figure out who to start, who to sit. We've got a lot of good wide receivers on high-powered offenses, but in that first game of the week, we're not going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown, it looks like. Well, maybe it's time to trust that other Lions wide receiver.
Yep, finally time. J-Mo, baby. Finally time.
J-Mo, come on. It's Tesla time. Well, we'll talk about that game and all the others for week 14 and figure out who should be in your fantasy lineups. Don't forget, this is the final week for buys. We got 4 teams that are going to be off: the 49ers, the Patriots, the Panthers, and the Giants. There are still several wide receivers you don't have to think about. If you got these guys, just start them. No questions asked. Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, George Pickens, Devontae Adams, and if he does happen to play, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And real quick, before we get to the nitty-gritty here, easy decision that you can make is to click that subscribe button. That's right, just give it a click. It's very easy and it helps us out tremendously. We're on our way to 100K. We're trying to reach our goal before the year is over. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and do it now. So in that Thursday night matchup, Cowboys taking on the Lions. Yeah, look, at this point, don't question it. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens have both been great together. Just keep them in your lineup. But on the other side, yeah, it sounds like there's a good chance Sun God is going to miss. So yeah, let's talk Jameson Williams and Isaac Tesla.
Well, I think if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, you have to start Jameson Williams this week. He's got to be a strong start here. Okay, sure, the Cowboys defense has been better, but over the last 3 games, they're still allowing the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers. We saw what he did with Amon-Ra St. Brown out against that Packers defense. Got to be a strong start. And then I'll say Tesla, you can flex him. It does feel risky here because he had less targets than Tom Kennedy in that game, but he gets the big plays. He could score, so risky flex.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be kind of like last week. You hope he gets a touchdown. He is a red zone threat, but let's not get too carried away. He's a flex option. Tesla, I'm talking about. And look, I get it. Jameson Williams should get a ton of targets. It's not just Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Laporta, remember, done for the season. And so my only thing is I have to keep at least a sliver of doubt open because it's J-Mo, but also this feels like one of those games they might just try to control the ground game and just run the ball as much as they can to keep that Cowboys offense at bay. So of course J-Mo has tremendous upside, so you probably are starting him in the vast majority of your leagues. But I'm not going to sit a stud wide receiver for him. Now on the Sunday slate, start with the Titans at the Browns. Really? Titans-Browns? So we go from Cowboys-Lions to this. I mean, come on, look. Is there any wide receiver we even need to think about on Tennessee or Cleveland this week?
No, I mean, let's start with Tennessee here. Chimere DK, yeah, 1 catch for 8 yards. I mean, the leading receiver, who wasn't even a receiver, is a tight end, had 29 yards in this offense. On the road in Cleveland, no chance.
Look, there are flex options with upside. He could be it. On the road against Cleveland, no, this Tennessee offense really has not shown any signs of progress throughout the season, which is a little bit scary. And then look, okay, on the Cleveland side, sure, Sanders has been fine. He's acquitted himself well. Like he hasn't been bad enough to be benched, but there's just not enough juice here, right? For the receivers, at least.
Well, I will say, like if I can say Tesla is a risky flex, I can say Judy is a risky flex here because the Titans have not been good against wide receivers.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't want to find out. We were fooled by that one random Jerry Judy game. Like, the leading target here is still the tight end, Harold Fannin. I know it's a good matchup on paper, but I don't want to risk the 0. Before we move on, don't forget while you're setting your fantasy lineups to get your underdog picks in. I know Feast Week is over, but there are still so many promos, profit boosts. Check your lobby, and I mean, if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, it's not too late. We still got several weeks in the NFL season, and also they have picks for NBA, right? NHL, every sport out there. If you sign up for the first time on Underdog, by the way, use code ENDGAME because that gets you a deposit match all the way up to $1,000 worth of bonus funds in your account. And then as soon as you play $5 towards any pick, you get another $100 in bonus funds added to your account. And this week, if you do it right now, you get a free pick. It's Jahmyr Gibbs just getting 1 yard in that Thursday night game. You get the free pick, the bonus funds. Try it out, sign up for Underdog, and use code ENDGAME when you check out. Now, Seahawks at the Falcons this week. JSN, all right, didn't have a huge game finally, but you start him, no questions asked. I have a question though. So the Seahawks got Cooper Kupp in the offseason and they traded for Rashid Shaheed during the season. Why, when they're not even going to use either of them?
I have no idea. I mean, this is a great matchup against the Falcons, but it doesn't even matter. You can't start these guys.
No, that's just not enough here. There basically is no ceiling for either, especially Shaheed. Now, on the other side, we would love to see Drake London back, but we're not sure if that's going to happen. If he comes back, do you play him? And if he doesn't, can we still have any interest in Darnell Mooney?
I mean, David Sills is probably the guy you want here if Drake London is out, not Darnell Mooney. No chance sitting him. I'll say Drake London, if he does come back, this is not a great spot. Seattle fifth toughest versus wide receivers over the last 3 games, and can't say Cousins is exactly lighting it up here. So, but that being said, you can't really bench Drake London. I'm just going to say solid.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't just automatically think of London the same way you did before because he was getting just completely targeted nonstop by Michael Penix. It's not Michael Penix, right? It's Kirk Cousins. So he's good enough, all right, of a player, and he'll still get a decent target share. He could be solid. Mooney, let's just move on, right? It's just not happening this year. It doesn't matter. Sit him, drop him.
Do you want to get advice from Pierre and myself at the tip of your fingertips? Start, sit, waiver wire, trades, and more? Well, you can do all of this and more on our new app, Draft Lane. We have the ability to view your roster, waivers, and more to give you the right feedback to make the perfect choice. Download Draft Lane from the App Store or Google Play, or use these handy QR codes. And first-time users can use code ENDGAME to get 10 free credits and get your questions answered today.
All right, now we got the Colts taking on the Jaguars this week. Let's start with that Colts receiving room. I mean, it's been hard to figure out throughout the year, like who's the guy. And I mean, it almost seems pretty clear now. Is Alec Pierce the number 1 receiver here? Is he going to be that going forward? And how good do you feel about him or any of them in this matchup?
Well, you can't feel great about any of them. The Jags defense has been really good. And look, they're allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points to outside wide receivers recently. After earlier in the year, they're giving up a lot of points to outside wide receivers. Michael Pittman, I'm just going to say a strong flex because he still does have touchdown upside, but that's pretty much it. I'll say Alec Pierce, just risky solid, like low-end solid. He does seem to be the number 1 guy here, but how good can we really feel this week? Although he did come through in a really even a tougher spot last week. And then Josh Downs, no, there's just not enough upside here.
Yeah, Downs we can ignore. Pierce we can't. I mean, he continues to make plays. He makes those tough contested catches, but most importantly, he's got the trust of his quarterback. And you look, it seems again as the season goes on, like Pierce is the preferred target, and so he doesn't get a ton of targets, a ton of catches, but he makes big plays. So I think he's got to be solid here. And look, Michael Pittman, forget the name, forget like where he is. Look at the numbers. There's no reason to start him. Honestly, he's got 59 yards over the last 3 games combined, and he's getting out targeted by the tight end Tyler Warren, by Alec Pierce. JT is really the focal point of this offense. It's just not enough here in this tough matchup, so I'm gonna sit Pittman. In Jacksonville, also a slew of options here, though. They might be down one. Parker Washington left last week early. We'll see if he's good to go. BTJ came back, although you might not have noticed because he didn't do anything. And then Jacoby Myers, is he the number 1 guy here in Jacksonville right here, right now?
He sure looks like it. The rare in-season wide receiver trade that is actually paying off for a team. Man, Jacoby looks great. Makes you wonder what he could have done if he wasn't in that Raiders offense all year. You got to feel good about Jacoby. Colts allowing the 9th most points to outside wide receivers over the last 3 games. And even with BTJ back last week and Parker Washington missing most of the game, he still played 82% of his snaps on the outside. He's going to be solid. BTJ, Parker Washington, I mean, BTJ, like at this point, what are we doing here? We can't start this guy. Parker Washington, even if he plays, Colts 7th toughest versus slot wide receivers. Not doing it.
Yeah, took a chance thinking you could flex Brian Thomas Jr. No, not this week. Even in, what's not a terrible matchup. So yeah, Jacoby Myers has proven he is solid. And then, if Washington does play, I probably still don't want to play him. I think there's just too much risk here. All right, now let's talk Commanders at Vikings. I mean, this is a situation where we're not completely sure the quarterbacks for each team going forward, What if Jaden Daniels does come back, as has been rumored? It's possible here. Look, Terry McLaurin seemed like a horrible choice last week in your lineup, and yet he came through against Denver. So against the Vikings, possibly with JD back, I mean, how high can you be?
Well, I don't think you can be too high here. This is another very tough matchup against the Vikings, but man, he just came back and just said, "What Surtain shadow?" I mean, just what a comeback. Not the comeback BTJ had, that is for sure. I think he's got to be solid. Even if it's Marcus Mariota, I'm going to say Terry McLaurin solid. And then Debo, I'm just going to say a flex. I mean, he had that, late reception in overtime that got him down to the 1 yard line. That was like a 30, 40-yard catch. But outside of that, did almost nothing.
Yeah, Debo is just kind of an unappealing flex option here. But Terry McLaurin, don't get too carried away. Not like an absolute must start, but definitely solid. Honestly, my only concern here is you would thought before the season began or early in the season, Vikings Commanders could be a shootout. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a shootout here with whoever. I guess JJ McCarthy's back for the Vikings. They're just not going to score enough points. So it could be like with Seattle last week. They just don't need to pass the ball that much, but still, let's go solid with McLaurin. Then you almost hate to bring it up, but you got to talk Justin Jefferson. Continues to do absolutely nothing for your fantasy team. Not his own fault here, but look, it's supposed to be McCarthy back in the saddle. That can't make you feel too much better.
Well, it makes me feel better as crazy. I mean, Max Bros, I mean, I did not think it could get that bad. I mean, that was horrible. In fact, I saw that was their worst, I think, the Minnesota Vikings' worst offensive performance in terms of DVOA ever in any game. Like, it was horrible. And how does Jordan Addison getting all these targets and Justin Jefferson is just running around, running wind sprints? Like, I even tweeted this out. Like, does Max Brosmer know he is playing with Justin Jefferson? Like, does he know Justin Jefferson is on the team? Like, does he know he's out there running routes? Give me McCarthy. I mean, it's not great, but at least with McCarthy, Jefferson had a floor, so you can flex him this week. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't put him higher than a flex. And again, it's not just because of name value, but he at least gave you a little bit of a floor those last couple of games with McCarthy. I don't know. Let's see if this concussion kind of cleared his head and he can see a little bit better when targeting the number one receiver in the game. But look, Jordan Addison, I don't care how many targets he got last week. He's a sit. All right, Bengals at Bills. Expecting and hoping for a ton of fancy points in this game. Jamar Chase should definitely deliver, so you start him. But what about T. Higgins? So he has missed with that concussion. Could come back this week. You would think he could clear in time. If he does, what do you think about him against this Bills defense? And then what does it mean for Andre Yosevich?
Yeah, you can't feel great about T. Higgins here. Bills very tough on the fewest points to outside wide receivers over the last 3 games. But this is T. Higgins. He's got Joe Burrow. Like, I got to find out. I'm keeping him in my lineup. I'm going to say solid, although probably lower end solid this week. Yoshi, only if T is out, a flex. But even then, I don't love it. Bills have been tough versus slot wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm going to say high-end flex for T. Higgins. Certainly has that upside, but you got to worry. I mean, look, it's great that Burrow is back, but at the same time, this is not a great spot for him. Specifically, the Bills are much worse against the run than the pass. It should be a shootout, but there's no guarantee that it will be. I mean, Yoshi at this point, I think, is just pretty much irrelevant. But let's talk about the Buffalo side. We never know who's going to do anything in terms of those receivers. Is this going to be a Khalil Shakir week? Because it feels like he's a lot more boom-bust this year, ironically. And then I guess we should talk Keon Coleman because he randomly scored last week.
Yeah, I'm still not starting Keon Coleman. Does he randomly score again? Maybe, but I don't really want to find out. Yeah, Khalil Shakir becoming very boom-bust here. And look, Bengals have not been a great spot for wide receivers because kind of like what we saw last week against the Steelers, you can just run on them and run on them and run on them, and plus the tight ends usually go off here. So not feeling another good Shakir game this week. I'm just going to say a flex.
Well, the thing is, tight ends, of course. You start your tight ends against the Bengals, but what if Dalton Kincaid is still out? I mean, Shakir as a slot guy, this could be another feast week for him. I do think that Shakir should be solid. It seems to be alternating weeks anyway, so why not? Coleman and Palmer and whoever else they have, no interest. this week, the Saints taking on the Bucs in Tampa. All right, so in this Saints offense, now all of a sudden, we got another receiver that's actually worth talking about. Sure, Chris Olave was fine last week, but Devon Villay definitely made an impact. He's going to be a high priority pickup, but is he a high priority flex or maybe even more?
I'm going to say Devon Villay. I'm going to put him, again, low end of solid here. He led the team in targets last week, tied Chris Olave second in first read percentage. Bucs, not a tough matchup here at all for these Saints wide receivers. So I'm going to say low end solid for Villay. I'm going to keep Chris Olave as solid. We did see his target share and kind of drop last week, but I wonder if that was the back. Let's hope this week he's not even on the injury report, fully healthy. If so, he's solid.
Yeah, that's the only thing I wonder. Olave was out there all game, and he scored. He was fine, it seemed like, but maybe they didn't lean on him quite as much as previously. But yeah, Olave is solid as he usually is. I think Villay is a very high upside flex. Definitely going to be one of the more interesting options out there. Now it'll be interesting to see who's out there for Tampa Bay. It's possible that Mike Evans returns, although Todd Bowles has been cryptic as usual. We'll see what he does. So look, maybe we get Mike Evans back. We know we got Chris Godwin back, and he actually did something last week. And then Emeka Egbuka, well, unfortunately, he seems to continue to kind of trend downward. So what do we do here?
Yeah, this is tough because Egbuka is still getting the targets, but man, what's going on with this entire passing game? Baker, the entire passing game looks bad, but I still do believe there is upside in there somewhere, and it is the Saints, so I can't Egbuka's just always been for the past few weeks, he's been one of the toughest start-sit calls because it's if I bench Egbuka, he might go off, but if I start him, he's going to kill me, and lately he's just been killing you. So I'm just going to say a strong flex for Egbuka. Look, Godwin was okay last week, but 3 catches, I still don't think there's enough here. I'm sitting him. And I will say, if Evans plays this week, I didn't hold Evans all these weeks just to bench him when he finally comes back. I know it's the Saints, and there's going to be that narrative the Saints own Mike Evans, but that was the Saints with Marshawn Lattimore. This is not that Saints. I'm going to say solid for Evans if he plays.
All right, so I'm going to throw all these Bucs receivers in that high upside flex range. If Evans comes back, yeah, they're going to use him, but I don't see him getting all of a sudden the lion's share of targets here. Egbuka has been getting targets. That's not been the issue. He's not seen fewer than 8 targets in a game since week 6. But they just haven't turned into big plays, hadn't had that ceiling. And Godwin is now a factor here. So these guys are kind of eating into each other's value. But the other thing is Bucky is back. That run game looked good. And it's the Saints. Are they really going to need to pass it that much this week? So these guys all have a decent amount of value. But I think that's just the flex range for me. All right, now Steelers at Ravens. I barely even want to talk about the Steelers' pass offense. The only guy worth talking about is DK Metcalf. Is he even worth discussing at this point?
Yeah, I was going to say, is he even worth talking about? No, I don't want any part of this. No. And the Ravens haven't even been that bad against receivers lately. No.
Now, look, just ignore DK Metcalf. Don't necessarily drop him yet, but definitely bench him for now. You can't afford getting nothing in your lineup. And on the other hand, Zay Flowers hasn't been great either, but at least he's given you a little bit of something. But I don't know, do things get better against Pittsburgh?
Let's hope. I hope that this offense gets better. Come on, what's going on? This offense should be better. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, this offense should be better. But man, it's been so bad lately. I'm just gonna say I'll flex for Zay Flowers, and really, I don't even feel great about that.
No, why would you feel great about it? He's had exactly one big game this year, and it was still week 1. This doesn't feel like a big game for him either, so he's just a flex. All right, now we got the Dolphins taking on the Jets. So I guess we should have seen this coming, right? Jalen Waddle, great matchup, doesn't do a whole lot. Somehow, I don't even know how it's possible. Miami really hasn't really passed the ball that much because somehow they're winning games now. Why now? But anyways, does Waddle bounce back in this one?
I don't know. This feels like I'm starting to think okay, here's the problem. When they play these teams like the Browns, the Saints, the Jets, they don't have to do anything on offense. They don't have to throw the football, and Waddle doesn't have big games. And this feels like one of those games. So I'm just going to say a strong flex here. He's got upside, but I feel like this is going to be another one of those games where Tua only throws it for like 130 yards.
That's exactly right. Somehow, while each of those last 2 games smash spots on paper, mind you, 3 catches. Sure, he could make a big play, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to happen here. So he's a high upside flex, but let's not go any farther. Do we want to go farther with A.D. Mitchell? I mean, we knew this was a talented guy. Now all of a sudden, is he the number 1 receiver here for the Jets and Tyrod Taylor?
Well, he's been the number 1 wide receiver. He just hasn't been catching the football. He finally caught the football last week. Look, this is still a pretty good matchup. Despite the Dolphins' defense being better, they're still allowing the 11th most points to wide receivers over the last 3 games. I'm going to say both these guys are flexes, both him and John Mechie. Although I have John Mechie as like a risky flex, I certainly prefer Mitchell here. Both flexes.
Yeah, you almost don't want to get tricked into, well, last week it was Mechie and now it's Mitchell. I mean, it could go back the other way. Both are getting targeted. Both have upside. And I worry that maybe this isn't a very high-scoring game in general because it's Dolphins and Jets, but still. Yeah, I'm with you here. Mitchell, I think, is an interesting flex, and Mechie is more of a desperation flex. Broncos taking on the Raiders in Vegas this week. All right, so on Monday Night Football, Cortland Sutton came through. Troy Franklin kind of disappeared. So what's going on here?
Who knows? They were spreading the ball out to like everybody in that game. But look, Sutton came through, still only had a 13% target share in that game, but this is the Raiders. He could certainly find the end zone this week. Again, I'm going to say solid. And then I'm going to give Troy Franklin a pass here because he had been coming like so good for so many weeks prior. Maybe he's not, maybe we crowned him as the number 1 wide receiver here too soon. But still, it's a Raiders. It's not a terrible spot. I'll also say solid, but more like risky solid.
Yeah, so agree. I mean, like, it's the Raiders, right? We know this is a good team to pass against, so Sutton should be solid once again. I'm going to keep Franklin a little bit lower, not just as a reaction to last week, but the reason is, I've seen that there was some speculation. He's just sitting on run plays because he's just not a good blocker, which makes sense. They got big Pat Bryant out there, but Pat Bryant has also been getting more involved. Evan Engram all of a sudden got involved, so I wonder, maybe Franklin's going to see his role decline a little bit, but it could be a Franklin week again. Who knows with this Broncos offense? I think he's a high upside flex here, but I still prefer Sutton. And I prefer to not start any Raiders wide receiver. You feel that way too?
Yeah, against this Broncos defense, no thank you.
Now Rams at Cardinals. At this point, you got either Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, who will apparently score a touchdown every single week of the season. Just don't question it. You put him in your lineup. We do have to wonder as far as the Cards here. Just when Marvin Harrison Jr. came back, he left with a heel issue. Got to see what his status is going into Week 14. So then that leaves us with the question of what does it mean for Michael Wilson? Because he pretty much disappeared as soon as Harrison came back.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at this like, okay, if Harrison plays, I think he's got to be solid this week. I mean, he only ran 57% of the routes last week, still only had 2 less targets than Trey McBride, a .27 targets per out run. He was on fire. He had like 6 catches for 69 yards on only 57% of the routes. With Jacoby Brissett against this Rams secondary, he's got to be solid. Then I'll say Michael Wilson, only if Harrison is out again, will also be solid for all those same reasons. Otherwise, he's a sit, and Greg Dortch is a sit no matter what.
Yeah, and look, they somehow got shockingly upset by the Panthers last week. I mean, it happens, but this is still a good defense, and the Rams with that offense, usually are running from ahead. So I will say Wilson is going to be a flex if Harrison sits. Otherwise, I'm probably just not going to even think about starting him. Harrison should be solid if he's a full go, though. All right, now Bears at the Packers. Huge implications for this game. As far as fantasy, these are probably the 2 wide receiver rooms that, give us the most headaches because every week it's something different. Let's start with the Bears. Rome Odunze. Just when you can trust him, you can't. And then you got DJ Moore, who's hot and cold, and then Luther Burden, who we keep hearing is coming on, and yet I don't feel like we're seeing the tangible results.
Nah, Luther Burden, way too soon. DJ Moore, hot and cold, I mean, that's pretty generous. He's had like 2 good games, and he's been awful in every other game. And what happened a couple weeks ago, had that random big game out of nowhere, and everybody's like, gotta start DJ Moore, and then he just killed you again this week, and he's probably going to kill you in Week 14. I'm not starting him. Rome Odunze, I can only say a flex at this point. I mean, he feels like a worse version of Emeka Egbuka right now. Like, you feel like the upside is there, but then every week he's just killing you, and the Bears' passing attack has become terrible, and they're running the ball like they're the best running game in the history of the NFL. So just a flex on the road in Green Bay.
Yeah, this is going to be a challenge, a very tough spot for the Bears offense in general. Don't have great confidence, so look, Odunze does still have flex value. The other two, don't want to risk it. You know, the Packers aren't the toughest against wide receivers specifically, but this just could be a tough spot for Caleb Williams. And you know the Bears want to establish the run, so just wonder if there's going to be enough volume out here in terms of targets. And as far as the Packers go, I feel like Christian Watson is getting all of the targets. I mean, this guy is on pace for maybe his best season. It's too bad he didn't come back sooner. And, well, there's the possibility still that Jaden Reed comes back this week, although I wouldn't count on it. Oh, yeah, and of course there's Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, I'm going to say Romeo Doubs just a flex. Okay, he scored last week, but he had like 20 yards. I mean, this guy feels very touchdown dependent. Don't forget, the Bears did get Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon back last week, so the secondary is getting healthier. It's getting better. I know A.J. Brown still went off, but it is getting healthier. It's getting better. Christian Watson, I'm going to say low-end solid because, again, he seems like he is the guy. He's the guy I think you should be trusting in this offense the most. He does have upside, but it is getting better. Like I said, the defense is getting better here. And then Jaden Reed, no, I'm not going to do it. Let me see him play a game first.
Yeah, not worried about Jaden Reed. Again, Dobbs is kind of your desperation flex. I prefer him more in a standard league if you need a touchdown because he could deliver there. I just keep saying week after week, I don't think everyone's realized just exactly how much attention Christian Watson's getting in this offense. He's got that big play upside. He's scoring touchdowns. This is a guy that, you know, can't say set and forget, but at this point, he's more than just a flex. I think he's just going to be solid going forward. And at night, we're going to see the Texans at the Chiefs. Tough spot, but still, if you have Rashee Rice, are you really benching him? No. What about Nico Collins? I mean, look, at this point, you could say, hey, this is what we signed up for. This is the guy who we spent a first-round pick on. Are we getting that Nico back on the road against KC?
I think we are. I mean, look, you say, ooh, on the road against KC, but they're allowing the fourth most points to wide receivers over the last 3 games and 10.7 yards per target. Look, Pickens and CeeDee Lamb just torched this defense. I'm not scared of the Chiefs right now. Nico Collins has been too good to bench. I'm going to say strong start. And then Jaden Higgins, he's coming on. I don't love him this week, but he does have at least 4 catches in 4 straight games, and he scored twice. So there is a floor here. You can flex him.
A lot of crazy things that have gone this season in football. I mean, probably the strangest might be if the Chiefs actually miss the playoffs. We'll see if that happens. But like, everyone's worried about the offense not looking the same. The defense now is taking a little bit of a step back, like you said. So at this point, Nico Collins, I mean, yeah, I think you just keep him locked in your lineup. He should be strong once again. Jaden Higgins, just a flex. And he's been involved, but I can't say this is a great spot for him specifically. And as far as the rest of the Chiefs receivers, okay, like, this is where I can say, yeah, it's the Texans. Let's just pass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Xavier Worthy did a little something last week, but still only had a 14% target share. Now against this Texans secondary, I'll pass.
Yeah, what's crazy, you know, if you see that one long catch Worthy had, this does not look like a guy who's one of the fastest receivers in the NFL. There's got to be something wrong. I don't feel like he's close to 100%, even though he's out there. And a Monday night, got the Eagles taking on the Chargers. So A.J. Brown, I mean, looks like he's back, right? This is what we've been hoping for. And, you know, the Eagles fans have been waiting for AJB, this version. Devontae Smith as well. Who do you like better in this matchup?
Well, I think you got to prefer A.J. Brown right now. He's 2 huge games in a row, you know, carrying your last place teams into, you know, 11th place, 10th place here. So thank you, AJB, for finally showing up when the season is over. But at least he's showing up, and you got to feel pretty good here. Although I will say this is not a great matchup against the Chargers. So I'm just going to say solid here for A.J. Brown. I'm going to say solid as well for Devonta Smith, but more like lower end solid. He still does give you a floor, even with A.J. Brown going off, and he does have that potential to boom.
Yeah, so I agree. Devonta Smith is still solid. Now look, with AJB, there's some players that, you know, are streakier than others. He is definitely one of those guys, right? It's like all or nothing, but he'll do it for a couple games in a row, right? He'll disappear at some point, probably like right when the playoffs start. But for now, you just can't keep him on your bench, right? They're going to him. They're making a point of it. But also, this running game is just not doing the job with Barkley. So they're having to lean on AJB in the passing game. So for me, AJB, I'm just going to call him a strong start. Then as far as the Chargers, I mean, it's fair to worry about all the receivers this week, and not just because of the Eagles' defense, but Justin Herbert, you saw that hand injury. Even if he is in the lineup and he's a full go, got to wonder if he's going to be 100% here. So what does that mean for Ladd, Keenan, and QJ?
Yeah, and even lately, we just haven't seen that explosive passing attack from the Chargers. Anyways, it does sound like he's going to play, but of course, we don't know. You never know how these things go. I'll say Ladd McConkey, just a strong flex here. Not a great spot, of course, against the Eagles. And again, even with Herbert, this has not been like a great passing attack this year. Keenan, Quentin Johnston, just flexes. I'll say QJ more of a risky flex. He could score, but if he doesn't, you're going to really regret it.
Yeah, there's always that potential, right? With QJ, where I say, well, he could, but I don't feel it in this matchup. I don't want to take that chance. Look, Keenan Allen, I get it. He does something. But look, at this point, we're settling for mediocrity. In 5 straight games, he's gotten exactly 5 targets in all but one. In that game, he got 6 targets. But he hasn't scored a touchdown in 5 straight games, and he just doesn't give you much yardage. I just don't think there's enough here. So in a bad matchup, I'm going to pass. I think Ladd is the only one I might start. And for me, again, just a flex. There you have it. That's the wide receiver situation for Week 14. Don't forget, catch the videos for running back, quarterback, tight end, and everything else you need to roll towards your playoffs in fantasy. It's all going to be in the playlist.